Do I need counselling to use a sperm donor? Hi everyone and welcome to Fertile Minds. My name's Melissa Stevens and I'm one of the counsellors at IVFAustralia. This is a question we're often asked. Do people have to have counselling before sperm donation? And the answer is yes. In New South Wales, it's actually mandatory to have at least one counselling session for any donors or recipients of sperm, eggs or embryos. Here at IVFAustralia, we actually recommend that people have 2 sessions. We believe that's best practice. So in the first session, we give people lots and lots of information. And then they have some time to reflect and then they come back, and generally the first session has brought up a whole lot of new questions for them. A lot of our patients have said that they found having 2 sessions has been really helpful because, it's given them time to process stuff and come back to us. There are a couple of different options for sperm donation. So some people decide to go with a known donor. If you have someone in your life that you can ask, this can be a really great arrangement. And I think the key to known sperm donation being successful is having a good understanding about everyone's expectations for the future. So all parties really need to be on the same page. And it doesn't matter what the future's going to look like as long as you're in perfect agreement. So some groups go along the co-parenting path, which is both parties are very, very involved in the child's life. And then there's kind of less connection. So, they catch up a couple of times a year. Or some people, it's someone that they know, but they have quite a distant connection with. And the agreement is just, we'll keep in touch kind of when we need to. But if the child has questions, is it okay for them to come and meet you and, answer the questions and get to know them a little bit at some point in their life? So like I said, it doesn't matter what you agree on as long as you're in agreement. The other option, which a lot of people choose if they don't have anyone they know or they decide that maybe that's going to be a complexity in their life that they don't really need, is to use one of the de-identified donors. So we have a sperm bank here at IVFAustralia. If you decide to go down that path, you choose the donor by looking at his profile. So we give you quite a bit of information about physical characteristics, hobbies and interests, level of education. You get all their medical information, genetic history, that kind of stuff. And usually we're able to give you a childhood photo as well. So you have a bit of a feel for what he might look like. So I'll talk to you a little bit about the purpose of the counselling sessions. The main thing about implications counselling is making sure that everyone has all the information they need to make an informed decision, both for themselves and for the potential child that's born from the arrangement. So there's no right or wrong answers. It's really about gathering all the information that you need. So we'll ask, for recipients, we ask about background information just to kind of get an understanding of where people are up to, what their thoughts are leading into doing this treatment. I guess for most people, using a sperm donor isn't how they thought they would have their family, so sometimes it's useful to talk about the process as to how they got here. We just get a bit of understanding how many people in your life you have to support you, whether there's any other stressful events and all that sort of thing. We discuss people's expectations around the treatment process. And one of the big things we spend quite a bit of time talking about is how you're going to tell your child what their story is. The vast majority of people I see are really open to telling their child, and the issue that they have is, how is this conversation going to look? When do you start trying to tell them? And what are you actually going to say? So what we know from research is that kids do best when they're told when they're quite young. But it's a very simple conversation. 3 and 4-year-olds don't have a really long attention span. So it's just about talking about it in an ongoing when the opportunity arises. And we'll talk to you about available resources. There's some beautiful children's books out there, and there's a lot of online resources as well. There's also groups of other donor parents that you can link in with, and they can talk to you about their experiences. So that's something we can share with you during the session too. The session for sperm donors is slightly different. So they also have two counselling sessions. We spend a lot of time talking to them about what's their motivation for wanting to be a donor. In Australia, sperm donation has to be altruistic, so they're not getting paid for their donation. So it's lovely to hear the great reasons that these men are coming forward to help families be created. So we talk about that. We make sure they have a good understanding of what the process is. They're all very aware that they have to sign the New South Wales donor register. So once the child turns 18, they can get the donor's identifying information. And we talk to the donor about how this is going to be for him when children do contact him in the future, how that might impact on himself, his family if he has his own children, and just making sure he's really thought through the long-term effects. Most of the donors are, they are all on board about being contacted, and they're really understanding as to why a young person might want to meet them. So they know that they're not going to be someone's parent, but they get that young people would want some background information just to fill in some blanks in their own lives. If you decide to use a known donor, we also have a joint session. So that's a time when all of us sit down and just really talk about, what everyone's intentions are in terms of future expectations. Just making sure everyone is now on the same page at the start of the arrangement. And all relationships in life tend to have some bumps at times. So if bumps come up in the future, how is the group going to handle that? And, what are some options for people? What are some likely scenarios, I guess, that we've seen in the past that people might want to consider? I guess in conclusion, the implications counselling is compulsory, but while people are on cycle or post-treatment, we're able to continue to provide supportive counselling. I quite often have phone calls from people sort of with 4 and 5 year olds or older kids, and they ring up and they say, look, I know when I started this process, you guys talked a lot about books and resources and what I'm going to tell my child. I'm at the point where I'm actually trying to tell them stuff and I just need a bit of a refresher. So you can check in with us at any time and we can give you an update. We also have a siblings program where people who are interested can connect with other siblings created by the same donor. That's a totally voluntary program, but we can help you join that if that's something you would like to do. Thanks very much for your time today. And if you have any questions, feel free to send them through. And also don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you can keep up to date on new information. Thank you.